So you're ready to hire your first employee in Japan? Maybe your business is growing and you need more hands on deck, or maybe you need to hire someone to comply with the latest visa regulations. Either way, you're probably wondering, what do I actually need to pay attention to? What are the legal requirements? And how do I avoid making costly mistakes that could come back to haunt me later? Welcome to SmartStart Japan's YouTube channel. Today we're talking about the 5 essential tips for hiring your first Japanese employee. And trust me, this is one of those areas where getting it wrong can cost you way more than getting it right. Now let's talk about who this video is for. First, this is for foreign founders who are planning to hire their very first Japanese employee. Maybe you've been running your business solo or with contractors, and you're finally at that stage where you need a real team member. That's exciting, but it's also a big legal step. And if you're not familiar with Japanese labor law, it's easy to make mistakes that come back to haunt you later. Second, this is for entrepreneurs who already have a business in Japan but haven't hired anyone yet. You might be wondering, do I need social insurance? What's the difference between an employee and a contractor? What documents do I actually need? If these questions sound familiar, stick around. We'll answer all of them. And finally, this video is also for business owners who might have already made their first hire but didn't quite do everything by the book. Maybe you skipped some paperwork, or you're not sure if you set things up correctly. It's not too late to fix it, and we'll show you what you need to address to get compliant before it becomes a bigger problem. So whether you're preparing to hire for the first time, you're in the middle of the process, or you're trying to clean up after the fact, this video will guide you through the essentials. Let's make sure your first Japanese hire becomes your biggest advantage, not your biggest headache. Now let me introduce our team at SmartStart Japan. First, we have our co-founder TJ Yoon. Born and raised in Japan, TJ brings years of experience in business incorporation and compliance. Fluent in both English and Japanese, he has facilitated over 60 company incorporations and successfully managed 40+ loan and subsidy applications for foreign entrepreneurs in Japan. TJ is your go-to expert for navigating the complex employment requirements here in Japan. Next, we have Tyson Batino, our co-founder who specializes in business scaling and advisory services. Tyson is a resident mentor for 500 Global and advised 35 companies on growing their business in Japan. And finally, here's me, Haikin, the marketing manager and content creator here at SmartStart Japan. I'm dedicated to bringing you practical insights on how to successfully build and scale your business in Japan. Alright, so let's get into the 5 essential tips for hiring your first Japanese employee. Understanding these points can save you from legal trouble, financial penalties, and unnecessary stress. Disclaimer: this content is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. We make no warranties regarding accuracy or completeness. Use of this information is strictly at your own risk. We are not liable for any damages or consequences. Please contact us for a formal consultation or consult a qualified expert before taking action based on this information. We reserve the right to update this disclaimer at any time. Alright, before we get into the 5 tips, let me quickly show you the 5 most common mistakes we see foreign founders make when hiring in Japan. Mistake number 1, treating employees like freelancers on verbal agreements. No written contract, just a handshake deal. That's a recipe for disputes and penalties later. Mistake number 2, copying contracts from other countries without localization. A US or UK employment contract doesn't work in Japan. You need Japanese-specific terms that comply with the Labor Standards Act. Mistake number 3, forgetting social insurance, employment insurance, and labor insurance requirements. These have strict 5 to 10-day deadlines. Miss them and you're looking at back payments and penalties. Mistake number 4, not understanding Japanese Labor Standards Act requirements. Things like working hours, overtime agreements, and premium pay aren't optional. They're regulated by law. And mistake number 5, discovering compliance gaps after someone is already hired. This is the worst. Trying to fix everything retroactively is messy and expensive. So here's the key. Get your setup right before you hire, not after. And that's exactly what these 5 tips will help you do. The first tip, and this is crucial, is to get your company legally ready to hire before you even post a job listing. You'd be surprised how many foreign founders skip this step. They find a great candidate, make an offer, and then realize, wait, I don't have the right documents, I don't know how to enroll them in insurance. What do I do now? Here's what you need to understand. Hiring an employee in Japan is not the same as hiring a freelancer. It's a completely different legal relationship with specific requirements, and if you don't meet them, you're exposing yourself to penalties and disputes. So first, you need to decide, is this person actually going to be an employee or are they a contractor? Now, you can't just choose whichever sounds easier. Japanese law defines what makes someone an employee. Things like, do they follow your working hours? Do they work at your office? Are they integrated into your team? Are they under your direction and control? If the answer is yes to these questions, they're an employee, even if you call them a freelancer. And here's the risk. If you misclassify someone as a contractor when they're actually an employee, you could face retroactive claims for unpaid insurance, overtime, and benefits. We've seen this happen, and it's messy. Next, you need to prepare what's called a Notice of Employment Conditions. Under the Labor Standards Act, when you enter into an employment contract, you must clearly indicate wages, working hours, workplace duties, and other working conditions in writing. This isn't optional. Immigration and labor authorities can request this document, and if you don't have it, that's a violation right there. And then there's social insurance and labor insurance. If you hire even one employee, just one, you're required to enroll them in health insurance, employees' pension insurance, employment insurance, workers' accident compensation insurance. Now, the deadlines for these are strict. Most of them need to be filed within 5 to 10 days of hire. If you miss these deadlines, you're looking at penalties and back payments. It's not something you can figure out later. Here's the thing. Most foreign founders don't do this alone. They work with what's called a sharushi. That's a licensed social insurance and labor consultant. These professionals handle all the paperwork, filings, and compliance for you. It typically costs around 30,000 to 50,000 yen per month, but it's worth every yen because they make sure you're fully compliant. All right, tip number 2, design a clear, legal, and attractive role. Here's what I mean by this. A lot of foreign founders, especially startup founders, they write a job description that sounds exciting. Join our fast-moving team. We need someone who can wear multiple hats, flexible hours, unlimited growth potential. That sounds great, but here's the problem. In Japan, you need to be way more specific about 3 things. We call this the triangle. You need to define the workplace and duties, the working hours, the compensation and benefits. Let's talk about working hours first. In Japan, the standard legal working hours are 8 hours per day and 40 hours per week. Anything beyond that is considered overtime, and overtime requires 2 things. First, you need to file what's called an Article 36 agreement with the Labor Standards Inspection Office. Without this agreement, overtime work is actually illegal. Second, you need to pay overtime premium wages, at least 25% extra for regular overtime, and 50% extra for any hours over 60 per month. So if you're thinking, oh, we're a startup, we all work late, it's just part of the culture. That doesn't fly in Japan. You have legal obligations here. Even if your employee is willing to work long hours, you still need to follow the law. Next, let's talk about employment type. You need to decide, is this going to be a regular indefinite employee, a fixed-term contract employee, or a part-time employee? Each of these has different legal implications. For example, if you hire someone on a fixed-term contract, you must clearly indicate the contract duration, renewal criteria, and the maximum period. And under new rules from April 2024, there are even stricter requirements on transparency here. And finally, make the offer realistic. Don't overpromise. Japanese candidates value stability and clarity. They want to know exactly what the job entails, how they'll be evaluated, and what the future looks like. If your job posting says flexible hours, but you actually expect them in the office 9 to 6 every day, that's a problem. If you promise bonuses but haven't budgeted for them, that's a problem. Be honest about your startup's volatility. What growth opportunity actually means, what wearing multiple hats looks like in practice. A good Japanese hire starts with a role that's crystal clear on hours, duties, and pay, and that respects Japanese labor standards. Tip number 3, use hiring channels that Japanese candidates actually use. I see this mistake all the time. A foreign founder posts in an English language Facebook group or on LinkedIn and says, "Why am I not getting any applications from Japanese candidates?" Well, here's the reality. Most Japanese job seekers aren't browsing international social media for jobs. They're using Japanese job boards, recruitment agencies, and public employment services. Let me give you some examples. First, there's Hello Work. This is Japan's Public Employment Security Office. There are over 500 locations nationwide. It's free to post jobs there, and it's a legitimate channel that many Japanese people use, especially for mid-career positions. The catch is, your job posting needs to be in Japanese, and it needs to meet legal standards. You can't post misleading pay structures or illegal working conditions. But if you can do that, Hello Work is a solid option. Next, there are Japanese job boards. These are sites like Rikunabi, Minavi for new graduates, or sites like BizReach, Green, and Wantedly for mid-career professionals. Each of these has its own audience. For example, if you're a startup, Wantedly and Green tend to attract people who are more comfortable with startup culture and flexible work environments. You can also use recruitment agencies or headhunters, Especially if you're looking for bilingual talent or someone with specialized skills. Agencies typically charge 25% to 35% of the candidate's annual salary as a placement fee, but they do a lot of the screening work for you. And of course, don't underestimate your own network. LinkedIn can work, especially if you're targeting people with international experience, but you still need to think about how you present the role. Now, here's the key. When you post a job in Japanese channels, you need to use the standard Japanese format. That means including role title and duties, working hours, specific start and end times, salary range, not just competitive, benefits, transport allowance, social insurance, bonuses, etc. Contract type, regular, fixed term, part-time. Location, and make sure what you post matches what's in the actual employment contract. Misrepresenting conditions in your job posting can lead to legal issues and major trust problems with the candidate. All right, tip number 4, interview for skills and cross-cultural fit. Your first Japanese hire isn't just another employee. They are your bridge into the Japanese market, your connection to Japanese business culture, and potentially your interpreter when you're dealing with clients, suppliers, or government offices. So, you need to hire someone who can do the job and help you navigate Japan. Here's how we recommend structuring your interview process. Step 1. A short screening call. This is where you check the basics. Do they have the skills you need? Are they motivated? How's their communication style? If you're working in English or another language, can they handle that comfortably? Step 2. A longer interview where you dig into role fit, past achievements, and expectations. This is where you ask specific questions like, tell me about a time you had to deal with ambiguous instructions. How did you handle that? Have you worked with foreign managers or multicultural teams before? What was that like? How do you approach giving feedback or disagreeing with your boss? These questions are important because they help you understand if this person can handle the unique dynamics of working at a foreign-run company in Japan. And here's something critical. You need to be transparent about working conditions during the interview. Under Japanese law, there are now stricter rules about clearly notifying working conditions and avoiding misleading representations. You can't overpromise things like promotions, salary increases, remote work flexibility, or visa sponsorship if you're not sure you can deliver. Another thing to look for. Can this person explain Japanese business norms to you? You want someone who can teach you, not just follow orders. For example, if a client is unhappy, will this employee be able to tell you, hey, in Japan, this is how we should handle this situation? That kind of cultural navigation is incredibly valuable. And don't forget, Japanese interview etiquette matters. Be on time, be prepared, and be polite. Some candidates might be more modest about their achievements than you're used to, so you need to ask specific follow-up questions rather than expecting big self-promotion. And finally, tip number 5, make a proper offer and onboard like a real employer. Listen, the relationship doesn't start when you say you're hired. It starts when that person walks through the door on day 1, or actually even before that when you send them the offer letter and employment contract. Here's what you need to do. First, provide a written offer and the formal notice of employment conditions. This should be in Japanese, or at least bilingual if your employee is comfortable with English. The notice of employment conditions must include contract term, indefinite or fixed term, workplace and duties, working hours, break times and holidays, wages and payment schedule, overtime and premium rates, termination conditions. Make sure what you promise in the job ad and during the interview matches what's in the contract. If there are discrepancies, that's a red flag, and it can lead to disputes later. Next, complete all insurance and registration steps on time. We talked about this earlier, but it's worth repeating. You need to file social insurance enrollment within 5 days and employment insurance enrollment within 10 days. If you're working with a sharushi, they'll handle this for you, but you need to give them all the necessary documents from the employee on day 1. What documents do you need from the employee? Here's a quick list. My number card or notification residence card, if they're a foreign national bank account, details for salary transfer. Pension handbook, if they had a previous job. Employment insurance card, if they had a previous job. Emergency contact information, make sure you collect these on or before day 1. Alright, so once you've made the offer and your new hire has accepted, here's your onboarding checklist. These are the critical steps you need to take, and most of them have strict legal deadlines. So pay attention to the timing here. Before day 1, prepare their workspace, tools and accounts. This might seem obvious, but it shows professionalism and preparation. When your new employee walks in on day 1 and everything is ready for them, their desk, their laptop, their email account, their access to systems, it sends a strong message that you're organized and you value them. On day 1, provide the written notice of employment conditions. This is a legal requirement under the Labor Standards Act. It's not optional. This document clearly states their wages, working hours, workplace duties, holidays, all the key terms of employment. Make sure you hand this over on or before their first day. Within 5 days, file social insurance enrollment for health insurance and pension. This is a strict legal deadline from the date of employment. If you're working with a Sharushi, they'll handle this, but you need to give them all the necessary documents from your employee on day one. Things like their My Number card, bank account details, pension handbook if they have one. Within 10 days, file employment insurance enrollment. This deadline is counted from the day following the day the person became insured. Again, strict deadline, and missing it can lead to penalties. When establishing the workplace, file workers' accident insurance. This is mandatory for all workplaces with employees. If this is your first employee, you need to set this up right away. In week 1, introduce them to your product, your clients, your team. This is about context and belonging. Help them understand what your business does, who your customers are, and how they fit into the bigger picture. In week 2, set 30, 60, and 90-day goals. This gives them clear expectations. What does success look like in the first month, the second month, the third month? Don't assume they'll just figure it out. Be explicit about what you expect. At the end of month 1, do your first check-in on fit and concerns. Ask them directly, is anything unclear about your role or our expectations? Do you have any concerns about working hours, workload, or how we communicate? Early small fixes prevent big misunderstandings later. This is your chance to course correct if something isn't working. Let me address a few common questions we get all the time. First, what if I hire someone and it's not working out? Can I fire them? Here's the reality. In Japan, terminating an employee after the probation period is very difficult. You need what's called objectively reasonable grounds recognized by society, things like serious misconduct, repeated documented poor performance after warnings, or business necessity like downsizing. If you try to fire someone without proper grounds and process, they can challenge it and you might end up having to rehire them or pay significant compensation. So our advice is, use the probation period wisely. Typically, probation is 3 months, and it should be clearly stated in your employment contract. During probation, it's easier to terminate if things aren't working out, but you still need reasonable grounds. You can't just say, I don't like them. Second question, what about paid leave? After 6 months of employment, employees are entitled to 10 days of paid annual leave. That's a legal minimum. After 1.5 years, it goes up to 11 days, and it increases every year up to 20 days after 6.5 years. And here's an important point. You must ensure your employee takes at least 5 days of their paid leave per year. If they don't, you can be penalized for that. Third question, what if I make a mistake in the contract? If you include a term that's below the legal minimum, for example, if you say no overtime pay, that part of the contract is automatically invalid, and the legal standard applies instead. But don't use that as an excuse to be sloppy. If you make a mistake, fix it quickly with your accountant or Sharushi before it becomes a bigger issue. Now, here's the truth that I really want you to understand. Getting it right the first time is way easier and cheaper than fixing it later. We've had clients come to us after they've already hired someone, and they say, hey, I think I might have messed up. I didn't enroll them in insurance. I didn't file the right paperwork. What do I do? And the answer is, you need to fix it immediately, because the longer you wait, the worse it gets. You could be looking at back payments for insurance premiums, penalties from the Labor Standards Inspection Office disputes with the employee if they realize they're not getting the benefits they're entitled to, damage to your company's reputation, and in some extreme cases, if immigration finds out that you're not complying with employment law, it can even affect your own visa status or your ability to sponsor visas for future employees. So rather than taking that risk, it's far better to get expert advice upfront. Talk to someone who's done this before, whether that's a Sharushi, a lawyer, or a service like SmartStart Japan, and make sure you're setting things up correctly from the start. It's the difference between smooth growth and constant firefighting. If you're planning to hire your first Japanese employee and you want to avoid legal landmines, SmartStart Japan is here to help. We work with foreign founders just like you two. Set up the right company structure for hiring, build compliant employment contracts and HR basics, coordinate with Sharushi and other professionals. Make sure you're fully compliant from day one. We handle the paperwork so you can focus on finding the right person and building your team. Book a free 30-minute consultation at smartstartjapan.com and we'll walk you through exactly what hiring your first Japanese employee would look like for your business. We only take cases where we're confident you'll succeed, so you know you're in good hands when you work with us. And if you want to learn more about setting up a business in Japan or applying for a business manager visa, check out our other videos on this channel. We've got tons of content to help you navigate every step of building a business in Japan. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.